Good morning, everyone, and we are pleased to have you here with us this morning. I am Anton Thayalan, the Chief Evangelist for Luminary Learning Solutions, and I will be the voice of the webinar this morning. Well, we welcome you yet again to the Reset and Go webinar series, designed with the anticipation of getting everyone back on track in terms of mindset. Setting the right precedence is important, and having said that, here is our disclaimer. We are here not to discuss the obvious. We are not here to dissect the impact. However, we are here to contemplate the way forward. This is the basis of the series, and we are on the last week of our 2-week series, Reset and Go. We will commence our webinar shortly, but for those who are joining in for the first time, here are some of the house rules. If you do wish to ask a question, please use the chat option at any point during the session. We will club similar questions and there will be answers throughout the session. The format of the webinar will be 40 minutes of discussion, followed by 20 minutes of Q&A. And there will be a summary for those joining the webinar at various points. The topic for the session this morning is using the pandemic as a launch pad to go digital. Well, there has been an image floating around LinkedIn and Twitter asking people which C inspired their digital transformation. Was it the CEO, the CTO, or the COVID-19? Well, in light of the travel bans, the school closures, the social distancing, organizations and individuals have rapidly adapted to digital tools to keep some resemblance of normality. Digital transformation has actually become imperative to keep work and education intact and operating effectively. So how are we seizing a true opportunity to demonstrate resilience in a crisis by driving the digital changes a business needs to survive? Well, let's find out this morning with our guest, and it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Rohini Srivastava, National Technology Officer, Microsoft India. Rangika Abhenayaka, Head of HR, Process and Systems, Assistant Vice President, John Keels Holdings. Rohan Jayavira, Consultant for Digital Transformation and Technology Management and Digital Marketing, Antura Solutions Private Limited. And Shanaka Fernando, Director and General Manager, Human Resources, WNS Global Services. And steering the conversation this morning will be our host, Sam Karandagoda, a trainer at Luminary Learning Solutions and Managing Director, Conquer Solutions Private Limited, for IT-enabled solutions and consultancy. It is said that silence is true wisdom's best reply. I'd like to welcome our silent observer and fountain of wisdom this morning, Vidusha Nathavitarana, founder and destiny architect of High Five Consultancy and Luminary Learning Solutions. With that, thank you for joining us this morning. Sam, over to you, sir.
Good morning, all of you. Once again, thank you, Dr. Rohini, Rangika, as well as Shanaka and Rohan for joining with us. We all know we have been surrounded with technology all this while, and it has been like something that I would carry in my pocket, I would sleep next to, and everything. But something that I noticed was that over these several years that we had like fast internet connections, state-of-the-art equipment, everything, it never was the key driver in at least non-tech businesses. I know for a fact that a lot of tech businesses, they do technology extensively for their everyday work. But right now we have come to the position that like the whole paradigm has shifted within a very short time that we did not even imagine. And my first question is to Dr. Rohini. Why do you think we never adopted that technology until we had to and we were forced to?
So thanks a lot, Sam. And let me just start by saying that, from where I sit as CTO for Microsoft India, I think from a digital transformation perspective, this has been a journey going on for some time. I would not say that we are now starting. Now, what is happening though is that this pandemic and the constraints that it is placing on us is accelerating some of those trends. Now, organized industries like banking, financial services, retail to some extent, telecom for some extent, in many ways, are already getting more and more digital. And as you mentioned very rightly, the mobile phone has gotten all of us to expect certain experiences from a customer perspective that is causing even consumer and retail industries to become more and more digital, right? Because the consumer is expecting certain levels of services. Therefore, the contention I would make is that digitization has been going on. And in many ways, this COVID scenario is asking us and is challenging us to say that what parts of our business, whether it is customer, whether it is our employees, our business processes, or our products and services, what really needs to be physical and what can be digital. So it is pushing us to think about digitization and is therefore accelerating the point of digitization in my mind. And I think we will all end up questioning our fundamental business concepts as we think about in this new era.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. It's definitely a very great beginning for this conversation. And I would actually like to pass this to Rohan. Rohan, so you have been in the industry with multiple technologies, like you have been with Google and then with Cisco and all these a diversity of technologies. So why do you think, from your perspective, that people waited all this long to adopt that technology until they were pushed to the deep end?
Guys, I apologize, but would you mind probably repeating that question, because I think I lost the last bit.
Sure, Rohan, no problem. So again, with the same context as I directed to Dr. Rohini, from your perspective, especially with your experience with driving Google usage in Sri Lanka as well as other technologies, why do you think the Sri Lankan businesses waited all this long until they were pushed to the deep end?
I'm guessing Rohan is having some connectivity problems. You can perhaps ask others. We can move forward until he comes back.
Yes.
If required, I can able to provide that answer. Sam?
Yes, Shanak. Actually, I would like to add one more thing in that way. You have an added perspective. You have been a lecturer as well, right? So you have the business background as well as the educational aspect as well. So now, based on that, what do you think about this?
I think why the organization have not, gone to a digital at this moment. We didn't go. Basically, if you look at, there are three factors that we need to consider, right? So number one, from the organizational point of view, why they don't want to go for digital and creating environment for people to work from home, something like that, right? One is about they already have the infrastructure available, office space, they've already paid the rent, electricity bill, everything, the infrastructure. So they don't know how to create or put some more investments into creating that type of environment from the organizational point. Second point, from the organizational point, moment you do that, you will lose the controls in terms of your compliance, risk, monitoring system, because people work as a unit in an organization where now they need to work as an individual in an remote place. from the second point, from the government and other authorities, they also don't want to create this type of things, moving away from the office, because office environment create a lot of indirect jobs to the economy. While we compare to work from home, example, when you work from an organization, you need to have those infrastructure, transportation, food, you name it. It is not only about working digitally individual. Third one, of course, the main point is the employees. I think they like digital, they like mobile phones, things like that, but they prefer, have that association. They want to show their shirts, the dressing, handbags, shoes, what they're wearing with others, including, watches they bought, they want to come and discuss, things like that. I think that is the reason. I think if you look at from three aspects, most of them have not pushed to become digital, to become digital. But having said that, even if you take online learning, we tried how much want to go on digital, right? Even our organization won't implement digital online system platform, but people prefer face-to-face, learning opportunity compared to digital options, things like that. I think the environment or the situation has push us to go to a digital. As now we face no option, no choice other than to go digital. I think we have come to that particular situation why everyone today is moving towards digital, as we don't have much options in order to survive in this current situation.
Can I add to what Shanaka was saying?
Yes, certainly, Doctor.
No, I'm thinking about what Shanaka you said, and you have a good point. Human beings, we are social people. We want to meet, we want to have that personal connect, we want to have those conversations, as you said, about what you did over the weekend and things. And I think the point you made is very right, and maybe where we will end up is some kind of a medium in the two, because there is some things around being able to work from any place you want, right, or any location, and the kind of flexibility it gives. So maybe there is a middle point, and you're right that until now we didn't think about it, but maybe this whole constraint will end up forcing us to question as to what really needs us to be together, and where we have actually the flexibility of being digital and working from any place at any time with the flexibility it comes with it.
Sam, I think we are moving from working from home to working from anywhere. I think
exactly.
That is where the digital is now creating.
Exactly, that's right. I mean, yesterday while I was planning for this, I was reflecting how I used to conduct some lessons to students in the UK using my iPad in the backseat of my car. So we are like getting a total paradigm shift. So with that, I would like to, is Rohan with us now?
Yeah, I think you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, Rohan. Right, thank you very much. Yes, so actually we were discussing about why did we wait all this long until that we had no other option but working from home or anywhere. So what's the background of the Sri Lankan companies that you have been you have been serving all these companies as a supplier or solution provider? So
yeah, so I think that my connection is still a little glitchy and there are some challenges in terms of picking it up, but I apologize for it. But I think let me summarize my thought process on this. And if there are challenges on the connections or whatever, let's just make sure that you move on to the next speaker. I apologize for it. So I think if you really look at technology, I mean, some of these technologies we are using have been around for a long time, and technology advocate companies have been pushing this for a long time. I think in order for technology to be adopted, there have had to be few things that need to be in place. First of all, the business leaders who probably don't understand technology need to feel that putting a human versus technology should be cheaper, which is always a very difficult type of a conversation when it comes to justifying technological investments. So I think that's one of the things that happened. The second one was people need to have the patience. Like today, I'm willing to click 24 times to get through to an e-commerce site to get my order, whatever placed. But earlier, after about maybe first or the second, and I would have just blamed the company and let go without really persistent about it, right? So I think also they had has to be there, right? I mean, we don't have a choice. We have to work through that. So working from home, working from anywhere, I think these concepts have been there for a long time. They're much realistic and viable, and in ways, I also believe desperation drives innovation. And I think we have gotten to a situation where we are desperate and we don't have an alternative. I think a lot of companies will adopt, they will pivot, they will change. Look what we are using. We are using Teams. I mean, with all due respect, Teams are never a mainstream product until this happened. So I think these are interesting times.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Rohan. So, Rangika, you have been spearheading like a lot of HR initiatives. You have been looking at the human perspective all this while, and now we are talking about like how are we going to put technology into people and get the best out of them. So, what are your perspectives?
So basically, I agree with all the points that were discussed, and the fact that what Dr. Rohini mentioned, that we had that focus, and it's just that COVID had accelerated our pace of digitization. So I feel as a HR manager, it's not just about having the right infrastructure or best of the technology. It's about how ready our people are, and look at their skill level, and look at the barriers that are there, which prevents us from adopting good technology. For any technology implementation or adoption to be successful, I think we really need to have a good plan. One example that I bring is last year we implemented HRIS, a new technology covering end-to-end HR process from candidate application, and even in terms of candidates, potential candidates engaging prior to joining John Keells, up to the entire life cycle, to the extent of exiting and transition. So we put in a lot of effort in terms of planning, and in the plan, as much as we focused on scope, quality, cost, timelines, etc., we had a parallel plan on change management and encouraging adoption. So it's about the mindset of people, and as well as their readiness level as well, and how we can make use of digitization to make sure people adopt to that faster. Some feedback I got was like, when HR drives too much technology, will HR forget the human touch? And that was a very interesting came from some of the business leaders that I knew. And how do you handle that challenge? Because people don't want to see HR people as, they don't want to be talking to a system only, they want to see people as well. So I think personification is really important in a system, like, systems not being like so rigid, like, too professional or too formal, and systems to have some level of personification, and also make use of what is available. It can be a simple thing such as, using kudos, a badge, to appreciate somebody, or it could be like, sending a thank you note, or sending a sticker through Microsoft Teams. So all of these will help adoption and helping digitization acceleration in an organization.
Thank you, Rangika.
Can I add some comment to what Rangika was saying?
Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor. Please.
So yeah, Rangika. So first of all, from a Microsoft perspective, I definitely have to say that it's interesting to hear you talk about features from Microsoft Teams. So I appreciate that. I think the points you make, right, about the human touch is very important, and I feel like today when people are working remotely, they are really yearning for it, and it's very interesting. Even in my organization, the very, I would say, creative ways in which people are finding that time to connect virtually, even though it's not in person, but more personally, more at a human touch level. Now, I'm not saying it's all beautiful. People are working very long hours, people are feeling stretched, and those are issues we do need to consider. But very interesting things we've had, virtual coffee sessions, virtual yoga sessions. So we've had some things that have happened in terms of connecting people with each other that I think would not have happened if this had not. So I think in a way you are absolutely right about the human touch, and which is what my earlier comment was, that we will have to find the right medium because the human element of technology is absolutely paramount for anything to go successful, not just in HR, but in every single business process. But I really appreciate your comments.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It looks like we have been tested whether we have that technology readiness in our HR ecosystem. So Shanaka, now we hope and we believe this COVID-19 situation will be over at one point of time. When we go back to normal, do we actually think like the businesses will continue with this new culture?
The answer is, I think, yes, because the answer is yes, because organizations, feel that this is what they are expecting in the future also. Right? Example, we have in WNS, we have enabled almost about 90% of our staff in Sri Lanka, or about 800 employees, work from home situation, right? So we know in the situation in the future, we do not know what will come in the future in many ways. So therefore, we will continue to, work from home, go digitalization and enabling to work from anywhere. It can be in office, it can be in a BCP location, it can be at their employee places, or maybe some other location. We will continue with that. The second point is that we have gone through a new platform for online. It's called Glint, where any employee can log into the system and they can do their online courses they want to continue. I think not only the organization, most of the schools, institutions are now going through in terms of online digitalization, the learning. I think this was we tried but never were able to achieve. But I think it's a good opportunity, and organization as company WNS will capitalize on this opportunity to go digital in terms of from learning perspective. Third point, we have done in terms of lot of time spending in terms of onboarding, exit procedure, things like that, right? A lot of manner. But today we have implemented WNS onboarding system, induction program, as well as AI intelligent robot that been employed. It's called Amelia, for people to connect through that, to continue with that, to connect sessions like that. All the exit now happening because people come to the office, hand over their the equipments, things like that. We do all the things in e-exit. I think organization will go digital going forward because of many reasons. One is about there are a lot of controls can be maintained through the digital system compared to the humans. Second one, it will be once you make the investments at the beginning, but you will have the cost effectiveness, cost savings in the coming years. And third one, moreover, there will be uniformity as well as the discipline which organization wants from the digitalization. So I see that this was an opportunity given to the organization as well as to the employees and everybody to adhere to the digitalization. I can give some example. Everyone knows the first mobile phone that we use, we call Gadol Bag or something like that. Huge, big phones. That was we used about 20 years ago. Today we are using smartphones. It took about 20 years to transform that the big phone to a small phone. I think in another 2-3 years the phone will become the part of our body maybe, right? So that's how the technology is moving fast. So therefore organization want to be survive, they want to be profitable, and they want to create market. If you look at Zoom, before this the issue, the stock price was something around very about $25, something like that. It has increased, gone about 300% of the stock price of Zoom, right? If you look at all the technology organizations today, all the leading organizations are the digital based, technology based organization. If you look at Amazon, if you look at all the organizations, I don't have to tell. I think the organization this is the opportunity. The digitalization will decide who will become the leaders, who will become the survivors, and who will become the losers. So I think the answer is organization will go digitalization.
Thank you, Shanaka.
What Shanaka said, Sam?
Yep.
Yeah. So I would say this whole journey and what we experience now will really accelerate our focus on improving female employment ratio as well. If you actually look at the workforce, and we have majority female population, what percentage of that have been employed in organizations, and what were the barriers? So few barriers were like, a lot of females want to spend their time with their children and they have to pick up their children from school, so they can't work full time, or they are unable to, to be in an office from 8:30 to 5:30, and the travel time is the opportunity cost of travel time. What are they losing out in terms of balancing their families and the other roles they have to play? So as a woman, having to play the role of a mother, it could be like the role of a daughter to your elderly parents. And how can you as a female balance all of these things? So one positive thing we can take away from this digitization is that it was made possible now, and all this while we were thinking, can we go completely digital? And COVID actually gave the right leadership to that. Like, I think we can learn a lot of leadership lessons from the whole from this whole COVID pandemic. It was very clear direction to all the companies saying, look here, you need to slow down and reimagining what you're doing. Relook at your HR strategic agenda, relook at your HR business agenda, relook at the workforce, and see what more you can do. So the barriers we had so far of, thinking, contemplating whether we can enable work from home, whether we can enable more female workforce to come into work and be productive, I think this challenge is eliminated. No organization can say, no, it's still a barrier and this is not working, because it's proven and we have done it. And at John Keells, it is one of our business agendas to drive female employment, and we are very, very keen on that. And this was actually a positive experience for us. From ITMA's perspective, to enable that, having the right policies, practices, maybe penetrating more into gig workers in the economy, and they can add a lot of value, creativity to what you do, but they are the kind of people who don't want to get stuck in a 8:30 to 5 working environment, sit in one place and, focus on just one thing. So grab the opportunity to employ them more through the digitization and get the best of their creativity to get that competitive edge in your business, add that to your strategy as well. So in terms of reimagining, relooking at your workforce, encouraging more female employment is something that is a definite takeaway, I think, for John Keells as a lesson from this pandemic. And one more thing is we are very keen on sustainability and our focus on planet and people. So also this rate we are taking, look at the energy saving and look at how the planet is recovering. So going green is part of John Keells' strategic agenda as well, because it's not just, profit that is there in our strategic agenda as priority. There are so many other things as a responsible corporate that we want to drive. I think this through this pandemic, all the learning that we had will enable us to show on the result of focusing on planet and giving that right break. On the other hand, the time saving for our employees, like the travel time, that commuting time, the impact of that in their families, in their relationships, their roles that they had to pay at home, would have made them definitely more productive. Although right now there are challenges of working from home because they have to play full-time role of a teacher as well. But that is a short-term thing, like, after this pandemic, things will go back to normal. And the lessons from this would be, how to achieve that fine balance. It can be right now we are working full-time in office, but we can enable, like, more employees to work like 4 days from home or 3 days from home, and match it to their personal agenda, so that we create a win-win situation as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Rangika. Interesting perspectives. Actually, just I want to welcome everyone else who joined in after we started at the first time. Just to give a quick overview, I mean, we have been discussing about how technology can be used as a launch pad to go digital. And we got some amazing insights from Dr. Rohini about like how the consumers are giving that push to the companies to go digital. Like even in Sri Lanka, I think you remember, like we hardly shopped online for Keel Super, and now like we are all after the website, right? So it has become a life goal to log into the website in the morning. So in that way, like after that, Shanaka talked about like how the organizations have already invested into the infrastructure, and then like in the meantime, people still want that psychological involvement in the workplace. So like there are like challenges, but in the meantime, there are a lot of merits. Like just like Shanaka as well as Dr. Rohini highlighted about like virtual coffee sessions, virtual yoga. So it drives engagement among the HR ecosystem. And a very interesting point Rangika brought up was about like giving more opportunity for the women to engage in the workforce. Like I being a husband with my wife having 3 kids, I know the value of this, right? So we had to take her off the workforce because of this. So I believe we are entering into like really good conversation, and I'm actually getting a question from the audience. So this is the context. You know, like we have been working with certain work hours, although it was not very strictly defined. We worked maybe 8 or 10 hours. Now, like I get complaints that you are at home, so your bosses are expecting you to work longer, and sometimes like even 24/7, and there are emails coming in at in the middle of the night. So all these challenges, plus a lot of these employees, they are using their own computer or the mobile phone to carry out these activities, right? So my question, Rohan, is like, is it fair to ask the people to utilize their own resources as well as spend like very odd timings on the work that they do?
Yeah. So I think let me take a step back, and I think I'll answer a few questions from the other panelists as well. A few points I wanted to just mention. Like the first one, I think working from home and working from anywhere are 2 different kind of complications to life. I mean, I've been working from anywhere for the last 7 years, and working from home under these circumstances are very, very different. And I think that creates a different thing. I'm not in agreement that this will technically will have a bigger impact to get more female participation to the workforce, because to be very honest with you, I think I see, and the people I speak to, especially from the female gender, they seems to have a lot more challenges on environment compared to going to an office and working from office. And I think that might ease out when the curfews and everything lockdowns goes out, and when you get a lot more help to the home. But I think they are under a lot more pressure for us. And I think coming back to the point of HR processes, I think the gig economy is going to explode. I think HR processes have to be rethought of completely. You need to rethink about how to hire people on project basis. You think about how do you measure it. The old school methods of measuring people's work performance will go out of the window. I think those need to be had to be rethought through completely. You are in a different place. You don't know if the person is working from 8 to whatever number of hours. And of course, coming back to the point that the bosses are expecting you to work throughout. I mean, I have absolutely lost track of days. So, I mean, I don't know whether it is a Sunday or a Monday or a holiday or a Poya day or a May 1st or a Vesak day, which I don't know, because I have calls now pretty much across the day, across the night, and I am expected to be there. Now, of course, if you are measuring me from the number of calls I take, that's an easy measurement. But what about the 3-4 hours that I have to spend on my productivity? How do you measure that? I don't think anybody really has a proper answers to those. So I think, but coming back and looking forward to the future, I think there are some really, really interesting things that's going to happen. I think all of us, the big companies, big technology companies, big solution companies will have a struggle. It will be about agility. It's about being nimble. It's about being able to pivot. So I think these are the kind of stuff that I think will happen. There will be clear winners. I think this industry like experience will drive this, because people would want better experiences working from home, working from environments such as this. And I think that industry will blossom even more. But I think those are the kind of future things. And I think there has to be a lot more effort put into mental health. Because I think I have this situation. I'm in calls from 8 till about 6 o'clock. When I go out, I feel dizzy because I've been staring at a monitor. which was never the case when I was working in an office. And these are realities and these need to be faced up. So my point is that I think I don't know whether this will particularly increase any kind of a participation of working. With all due respect, I'm saving a lot more money. Maybe I don't need dual income also anymore. So, there are different ways of looking at this.
Can I respond? Can I put in some comment here?
For sure, doctor. Actually, I was going to talk to you.
Yeah. So both very interesting points, and I can't resist talking about the gender participation, right? I have to. I think couple of things, right? I think the point that Rangika made that that there is now both more opportunity for women as well as for employers to think about the talent pool they want to tap into. But it comes with very clear thinking about HR policies, because the current situation of working 12 hours is not sustainable. It's not sustainable over the long run. It is perhaps can be done as a short-term measure when people are trying to just get over this crisis. But over the long run, that will have to be clearly thought about. The point that Rohan, you made about women facing more pressure because now they are trying to do both work as well as home responsibilities in that same time zone. I think that requires both employers to think very, very clearly about what do they mean by a work day, what do they mean by about flexibility, what do you mean about a lunch hour that is sacrosanct, what do you mean about certain time when the day ends, as well as employees like IBM, for example, even 10 years ago, were giving allowances to people to hire additional help at home. It was actually allowance given if you are working from home because the company is saving on real estate cost. Some of those creative ideas will need to come back out to be able to help. And I would actually even challenge, and in fact was discussing over Twitter over the weekend, that as societies, and I know India and Sri Lanka share a lot of societal values, we will have to have a real conversation across genders about working for home as well. Not just working from home, but working for home. And I know my colleagues who are digital leaders are talking about the fact that their spouses who are really playing a strong role in the home responsibilities as the only way that they are able to actually work from home. Otherwise, it would not be possible. So it's a choice we have to make as employers, as leaders, as societies.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
A few points to what Dr. Rohini said. I agree with all the points that Rohan made as well as Rohini mentioned. Also about gender parity, one thing I would like to share is if working from home is a challenge to a woman, it has to be the same for a man as well. Looking at certain European countries who wanted to give equal amount of paternity leave to the fathers as well. Why did they go to that cultural shift? That's because you don't want to differentiate a woman in employment versus a man in employment. Everybody has the same challenge. Everybody has to share the same responsibility. I think it's a cultural change as well, and how we look at things. So I don't necessarily agree to the point that it's only a challenge for a woman. It can be for men as well. And also, what we go through today is temporary. It's just that due to COVID lockdown at home, you have to be the school teacher and you have to complete that entire school agenda also at home, and you have to cook because you are unable to get your daily meal because traveling is restricted. But this is just a very temporary situation, and we need to be positive that we are going to get out of it. So what is that long-term view? What is that cultural change that we need to drive as a society? So let's start it with our own organization, our own mentality of how we look at things. So from an HR perspective, and talking about John Keys, we are looking at gender equality, gender parity, and how do we make sure everybody is treated the same way, same opportunity is given. It doesn't have to be a difference in gender. It can be anything, right? It can be your sexual orientation. So it doesn't matter. The challenges are same for everybody. It's just that we need to have that equal respect, equal level of empathy, and understanding that context is the same. It is a cultural shift as well, and change in the way of thinking.
Thank you, Rangika. Yes, thank you very much, Rangika. So now actually we have another question coming from the audience, which is a very interesting perspective. I think at the very beginning of this movement towards working online using software applications, there were conversations about cyber security issues, confidentiality issues, etc. So I would like to address Dr. Rohini on this matter. How do we react to this situation, like the questions and the concerns about cyber attacks and confidentiality, etc.?
So look, I think, again, I would go back and say, make a similar point that cyber security and confidentiality and related issues around privacy, trust, all of these have been top of mind for corporations around the world. And I would say that in more recent times, there have been even further emphasis on these as companies have been going digital. Now, the situation that we are in from this work from home that our discussion is centering around is making it much more front and center for individuals. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing because in many ways, the weakest point from a cybersecurity perspective for any organization tends to be people and policies and how well people adhere to those in terms of authentication, in terms of how they leverage two-factor authentication, what kind of tools they use, and practices like that. So I think that the fact that this is the cyber attacks and challenges have been there. Now the vulnerabilities are coming out because people are more digital and therefore people are more conscious of it. My sense is this will make people, both innovations will happen in terms of how to make it as frictionless as possible. There are things happening in terms of using facial recognition, for example, under controlled circumstances to create authentication, which is touchless, as an example, right? But there are many other technologies like this. So there will innovation that will happen in terms of cybersecurity, authentication, authorization type of processes. But I think people's own cognizance of strong passwords, of using encrypted connections, of using of not sharing passwords, right? Being able to use the right kind of tools, not having policies in terms of both physical security and cyber security. Many of those have been there, but I think people's adherence, acceptance, consciousness, and learning of this will definitely be challenged, and I think it will allow it to improve. Because to me, there is, as I said earlier, the wheel of becoming digital is not going to stop, it's only going to accelerate. And therefore, for us to realize that more and more of our lives, our assets are now in the digital world, which means we have to learn to think about cybersecurity just as much, if not more, than what we think about our physical security.
Yes, Doctor. Actually, you are putting it in a very beautiful way. The wheel is not going to stop, it will only accelerate. So I want to speak to Shanaka about this. So now, Doctor addressed it in a beautiful manner with like technological and organizational perspective. So as a HR professional, how would you advise the laypersons to be protected from these challenges, and how would you try to ensure that confidentiality, secrecy, etc. are protected within the organization?
Shanaka, we can't hear you.
Yeah, so
sure. Okay, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
So I was telling in terms of if you want to take money from the bank, withdraw money from the bank, you need to go to the bank personally, to the particular the bank branch. You need to carry the passbook, and you need to personally present to withdraw the money. Thanks to digitalization, even you can withdraw your wife money from the ATM, if you know the car, if you know the passport as well as the car, the ATM, so you don't have to be physically present. So that's the level that today we are talking about. If you don't have the controls in place for the organization with regard to the digitalization, right? Simple example, right? So today as an organization, WNS, we work with multiple clients, international clients, all high-end work like finance and accounting, legal services. So there's a huge confidentiality that we need to maintain with regard to when you go digitalization. So as an organization, we have implemented a lot of compliance requirement, risk, mitigated things in order to make sure. So from your question, what expected from the employee, I think what is important is the self-discipline is important from the employees when they work in a digital environment. Because today you are not working in isolation. There's no control, there's no supervision, there's no CCTV camera available to find out whether what you're doing. There's no proper system to monitor what exactly you're doing, things like that. So therefore, from the employees wise, I think the self-discipline is required. And also, as an employee, you need to have the loyalty as well as, as much as adhere to the system, policies, procedures, which is in place during this type of situation. So as an organization, WNS, we have empowered employees to work individually, independently, but we have a system in place where the managers connect with the employees to find out how the work they carried out. Also, our corporate IT and risk team, they frequently do the checking in terms of to make sure that we do not have any compliance related issues or the risk related issues because of this being digitalization. I think one thing that we need to understand is when you go digitalization, that is where we want to move. We need to have some sort of control available. You need to understand in Sri Lanka or India or anything. When you work in an organization control environment, you have a air-conditioned environment, you have comfortable seating, you have supervisor support, everything is there. But in a house, in the home, I don't think that many people have dedicated office, even a dedicated seat and a chair to work. Focus on that, concentrated. In the office we do all the things. We do not know what time we come. In office you can't do that. I think it's self-discipline is important, commitment is important, and also what is important is you adhere to the organizational compliance framework. I think that is very important, and we got every employee do a self-declaration to agreed saying that they will adhere to system procedures when you go on digital and work from remote environment.
Thank you, Shanaka. Thank you.
Can I add a few points to what Shanaka said, which are very valid? A few things that we practice at John Keys, I thought sharing would be helpful for somebody interested. So when we talk about data and information security, today data is an asset, right? You can make a lot of money with data. You look at advanced analytics and predicting what customer wants. For all that, the data lake that you have is really important, right? So today is like time is money, data is money as well. And if there is a non-compliance with regard to confidential data that we possess as an organization, it could be customer data, it could be our employee information or candidate information. If there's a non-compliance, and that can be like really costly as well, and that can have a very bad impact on the organizational reputation. So as much as we drive digitization, I think it's equally important to drive system security and data protection and related law enforcement and conduct as well. So adding to what Shanaka said, just like we get a self-declaration from our employees, sometimes it can be due to the fact that they're very genuine. It's just that they haven't thought that they have thought that it's okay to share this information. Simple example, disclosing the address of a candidate to another friend, and it can lead to so many other things. It can be a simple thing such as birthday, but it's still that person's confidential information. Nobody else has the right to share it. So I think digitization, although it opens up a risk of information security, it also opens up avenues for you to make sure that your information is secured and well protected. One example is like having mandatory training, which go on a frequent basis. So at John Keys, we started off with annual mandatory training on compliance. So it's not just limited to your code of conduct, but people having to read these key mandatory policies which includes corporate communication policy, code of conduct, and information security and IT system and infrastructure usage policy. And these policies can be like really lengthy, like opening very, like talking very frankly, they're very boring for people to read. But still, it's important that people read it and understand, and the gravity of non-compliance as well. So certain things I think we need to drive, and we need to make sure that people adhere. So those are compliance related. It's like, there's no choice about it. So running these mandatory trainings and getting people to read this. And today I read it, I answer my mandatory, assessment, and I get a pass, and I'm through that. But, in another 6 months time, I may have forgotten. So it's important that you have a set frequency of assessing this.
Yes, Rangita, actually, we are getting another question from the audience. So, very good point that you raised. I think it was based on the point that you raised about the concerns of privacy and how it is managed among people. So, to Rohan, as a technologist, I would like to direct this question. There are two sides. In one side, you can see like the companies are afraid of people abusing their opportunity, and especially like having a less serious view about privacy and secrecy of the company affairs. And in the meantime, the other side of the coin is that the companies are also trying to monitor people. I know for some companies, like they even ask the employees to continuously share the screen so that they can time to time check back, right? So now the individuals are feeling sort of their circle is violated, their privacy is a little bit at risk. How are we going to strike the right balance between this privacy, monitoring, and control?
I mean, I think what's going to happen essentially is that this is something that we are not prepared for, and I think a lot of people are in the backend system. So cybersecurity was not something that people discussed. It was one of those things that were in the backend. A lot of big technology companies needed other people's products to secure their services. So there's all these kind of things happen. But what is happening today is that with the constant, I mean, there's obviously a high spike in cyber attacks. I think that's going to come to the forefront, and that's going to become a very important conversation. Just like people are passionately talking about, AI and ML. I don't think I'll ever work for a company that want to have my screen on all the time. I think that's just rubbish. But I think what's going to happen essentially is that there will be new systems, new tools of ways of measurement. There will be a balance. I think sometimes what is happening is that the pendulum, I always say in life, sometimes it's like a pendulum. You have been in one side. Now the pendulum has swung to the other side, and we are really trying to figure out, there's a lot of catching up in terms of technology systems and processes and all that to rethink. And I think this pendulum will come back and find some kind of a balance. Implemented, and I think new ways of managing people will come in, and I think there will be a balance. Having worked from home for a very long time, I will be a lot of measurements in terms of recruitment level, in terms of measuring a person's integrity, measuring a person's commitment, measuring a person's performance will come in. And I think we will move to a point where more than the processes, we will start measuring outcomes more aggressively. And that is where this will lead to, because it doesn't matter if you can really smart and you don't need 6 hours to do the work, you need to put 2 hours. But if you're achieving the outcome, why should we care? Because that person may have had 20 more years plus experience to get that work done in 20 years. That's what you pay people for. So I think these measurements and metrics will get implemented to HR and people. I also personally feel some of these stuff we are talking in terms of documentation, all of that will kind of move away. I think a lot of organizations, as it is today, speaking about reducing real estate. So I think there will be more people will be working from home as a result of this. And I think there will be a new wave of arrangements that will happen. I think that's my honest opinion about technology part of it. And I think that will be a very interesting place. Again, it will not be for everyone, just like everything else.
Thank you, Rohan. Yes, quite a valid point. And unfortunately, like all the good things are supposed to come to an end, we are reaching the last few minutes of the webinar. And I have the same question that will be asked from all of you. This is what I'm going to ask. During these trying times, within the context of going digital, what was the biggest lesson you learned, especially like based on a big mistake you have observed or a shortfall, and then what did you learn out of it, and how can we like take it all forward into our post-corona normal lifestyle and work patterns? Dr. Rohini?
Yeah, no, this is a very deep question. I would just sum it to say that, and some of the comments I made earlier and my colleagues here made, I think the biggest thing I've learned is the need and desire and people's fundamental aspiration to trust. I think the element of trust has been huge in this area, because I am trusting that people are working, doing their best. I'm trusting that governments to do the right thing, and so there is this element of human connect and sense of trust has been a big element for me in these last few weeks. And in many ways, as a leader, that from there I have drawn the sense of empathy, from sense of doing the right thing. But I would say that the one factor which I have strongly believed in and felt like I could anchor on has been this element of personal trust.
Thank you, Doctor. And I would like to ask the same from Rangika.
I totally agree with what Doctor said about trust. And one thing I think I've learned is as equally important is collaboration. If we even look at this pandemic, can we as a country alone fight this? No. We might get it under control, but we might get another wave from another country. So we are in a, the globe is getting smaller and smaller, and we are working more collaboratively. So it can be at home, like, facing all these challenges, how you collaborate as a family together, and work colleagues, how do you collaborate? Do you help another person who has some personal dependency at home? Can we take some of that person's work and help this? And also as organization, collaborating as organizations to help each other, like, Key Supermarkets, having alliances with another delivery organizations to get together and overcome this challenge. So as HR person as well, I think collaboration is also key and a big lesson that we have learned.
Yes, thank you, Rangika. Shanaka, how about your view on this?
So my view in terms of my learning, I would like to put it in two ways. One is from the HR perspective. One is about, earlier we were talking about how the generation Next, generation Y, generation Z is going to be, and how organization can cope up with that. I think that norm is, I don't think that's going to be coming as a top of the agendas, because that the digitalization will be the key topic, and we need to adapt all generation, irrespective of your male, female, age barriers, whatever the background you come. I think digitalization is going to be key for the organization. Therefore, the learning would be, while we addressing those issues, I think we need to address particularly how we become, digitalization in the coming years. So that's one. Second point, in terms of both Dr. and Rangika spoke about, I think when Rohan might talk about what the values that we want to bring to the table, because personal values, personal trust, working as a collaboration, teams would be another challenge that we need to work as an organization, because digitalization requires initial stages, much more effort and the support from everyone, including employer, organization, government, stakeholders, your suppliers, name it, to work as a one team to become, successful factor. I think collaboration, trust will be a key in terms of the going forward, and those are my learnings.
Thank you very much, Shanaka. So finally, Rohan. Rohan, are you around?
He's on mute.
Sorry, I've been speaking from while I was on mute. Now I can hear. I think you guys can hear me. So I was like, I mean, technology have always been an underlying component, and what is really happening today is that technology is coming to a lot more forefront, and people are really relying on all of these technologies to work. And I think provide a superior that is so superior, so experienced, that is so superior that people can actually kind of in ways substitute the social elements that we are heavily dependent on what we were used to get from kind of office environment, our friends, the meetings, the physical contacts, and relationships and all of that. We are not there yet, but I think the next couple of months there will be a lot of makers and losers in the game. A lot of big companies will have to rethink. I completely agree with collaboration. I will think ecosystems and partnerships will drive a lot of successes. How fast you can pivot from the way that you have been doing business. I don't think these are what I would call an industry transition point or world transition points. And when these transition points happen, the world doesn't always come back and reset to the normal way. To get this all is given. The last part is about personal. I will start into a more of a management of our mental health, balancing relationships inside the house, children, wife, family, kids. That I think there's a lot more of those components that have not been come together. But forgive yourself, be patient. Answers are coming. Don't be hard on yourself. One thing very important is say no more, because that's very important to balance your time.
True.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Rohini, Rangika, Shanaka, Rohan, all of you. You made some very enlightening remarks throughout this, but unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we have to end up this amazing, fantastic conversation. Thank you very much for our lovely audience as well. And last but not the least, Vidusha, Anton, Tatum, and all of our organizing team for pushing all this forward and creating an amazing show. Thank you once again, and look forward to meet all of you one day in real life as well.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Over to Anton, please.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sam. I'd like to thank Dr. Rohini Srivastava, Shanaka Fernando, Rangika Benayak, and Rohan Javira. Thank you so much for joining us and for that brilliant knowledge that certainly kept us in rapt attention. Thank you, Sam, for facilitating the conversation this morning. Amid the pandemic-induced crisis that has upended lives and cast a veil of uncertainty over the future, one thing we learned is very clear. We are living in a much more digital era. And as we heard through the four panelists, some organizations had a digital transformation in place or were working on one. But what we know for sure is that most organizations were not far along enough in this planning stage for COVID-19 to be a non-issue. Perhaps this did force companies to visit a digital transformation much faster than anticipated. Either way, the way we look at it, COVID-19 is a clear before and after moment in the digital transformation timeline, with the most drastic, if not the most viable transformation seen in the areas of telecommuting, on-demand food and services, virtual events, and the cloud. The challenge, ladies and gentlemen, is merely teaming resilient leadership with recrafting the digital strategy to navigate the crisis, not just to survive, but also to be ready for the next normal. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank H1, our technology partner, responsible in large part for taking Luminary Learning Solutions digital to reach you throughout the series. Well, you've tuned in to the 8th of the 12 topic lineup. Tomorrow, we're discussing effective and positive communication during a time of crisis. Our panel tomorrow features Patrick Pereira, Vice President, John Keells Group, Head of Learning and Development, Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts. Anup De Silva, Head of Corporate Affairs, Brand and Marketing at Standard Chartered Bank, Sri Lanka. And Roy Raymond, Executive Director, AmCham Sri Lanka, and Strategic Communications Specialist. So remember to log in at 9 a.m. tomorrow, Thursday, the 30th of April. A quick reminder that the video footage will be up on our social media feeds and YouTube channels for those of you or your friends, colleagues who may have missed it and would like to view the footage. Good morning to everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day. Stay safe, stay productive.